in this particular section, you're going to learn exactly how to improve not just your mobility and enhance your ability to recover, but also build a core that will keep you functional for life. Now, I've had a chance to meet a lot of brilliant minds when it comes to mobility and recovery and getting the most out of your body for as long a period of time as possible. One of my friends, Dr. Eric Goodman, actually designed a program called Core Foundation Training. He's used this program in professional athletes across the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, a lot of Tour de France cyclists who get low back issues. They use this program. I discovered it when I was doing Ironman triathlon. And by doing this program 3 days of the week, such as Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, at a specified, doable time that works for you, you're going to build a core that allows you to stay active for life. And if you have issues like low back pain and hip pain, you're going to find this helps tremendously with those type of issues as well. Now, once you've learned this routine and identified each of the different exercises that you're supposed to do, what I'd like you to do is create a trigger or a reminder or some way that you can actually remember to do these exercises 3 days of the week. Now, like I mentioned, I like to do them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, for me personally, I've gotten to the point where I don't need that trigger. I simply know, I have memorized that sometime between 6 and 7 a.m. when I've got the coffee water on and it's heating, I go through the exercises that I'm about to show you. However, if you need to create a trigger or a reminder, whether that be a post-it note on your computer or something that pops up on your phone, feel free to do so until this routine becomes second nature. Okay, now I understand that many of you may want to take a deeper dive into Core Foundation Training, into what it is, and perhaps even see close-up pictures and written descriptions of each of these exercises. The book that I recommend most highly for this is called True to Form. It's by Dr. Eric Goodman, and the exercises that I recommend can be found summarized beginning on page 172. I'm going to demonstrate to you each of these exercises, but you can get this book, True to Form, if you need an additional resource. Your first exercise is called a standing decompression. Now, for each of the moves that I'm going to teach you, you'll want to focus on what is called decompression breathing. Decompression breathing involves expanding your rib cage laterally as you perform each of these moves. As you expand your rib cage laterally, when you exhale, you're simply going to try to keep your rib cage expanded, so you're growing sideways each time that you breathe. So, allow me to demonstrate this for you with the very first move that you're going to do, standing decompression. For standing decompression, you're simply going to stand. You can put a pinky on your hip bones and a thumb on your rib cage to begin to feel that decompression occurring as you breathe out and expand your rib cage out to the side. And then from here, you're simply going to bring both arms overhead and take 5 to 10 deep decompression breaths. Each of the moves that I'm going to demonstrate you involve 5 to 10 of these decompression breaths. Now, the next exercise that you're going to do is very, very similar, except it is a lunging decompression. For the lunging decompression, you'll start with the right foot forward, left foot back. Try to fire your glutes and your upper hamstrings by driving that front heel into the ground, and then simply bring your arms overhead again and engage in 5 to 10 of those deep decompression breaths. If you do this correctly, you're going to feel your low back tighten up and you're going to feel your glutes activate. After you've done 5 to 10 breaths on your right side, you'll repeat with 5 to 10 breaths on your left side. The third exercise is called the woodpecker, not to be confused with the other birds behind me at my home right now, the roosters and the chickens. The woodpecker involves you getting back into a lunge position again, but this time a slightly wider lunge position. You'll want to split your legs pretty significantly. You can see how far apart mine are. So a little bit more of a scissor than you would be if you were in that lunge decompression position that I showed to you. From here, again, you're going to drive that front heel into the ground so you feel your glutes and your hips activate. And then you're going to reach forward, push your body over that leg that's out in front of you, And again, take 5 to 10 deep decompression breaths in which you're expanding your rib cage as you breathe. You'll do 5 to 10 breaths for your right leg, and then you'll alternate, put your left leg forward, and do 5 to 10 breaths of the woodpecker with your left leg forward. The fourth exercise is called the founder. And of all the exercises in this program, it's probably the most effective. It's very similar to what I just showed you with the woodpecker, except for this exercise, you're going to have your feet aligned parallel to one another, very similar to where you'd be if you're going to do a squat. And then you simply hinge forward by pushing your butt out behind you, and again, you should feel your butt turn on and your hamstrings turn on and activate, and then you'll bring your arms out in front of you and do 5 to 10 decompression breaths while holding this foundation position. The fifth exercise that you're going to do for your foundation core training is called an integrated hinge. For this exercise, you're simply going to get in a similar position as you did for the founder routine. Bring your thumbs up to the outside of your shoulder, look forward, and then simply hinge by pushing your butt out behind you and your head out in front of you. Then contract your hamstrings, squeeze your glutes, and stand. And again, hinge and stand. If you've ever done a deadlift or a Romanian deadlift, this is very similar to that type of movement pattern. And again, for these integrated hinges, your hands should be up in this position as you hinge forward. This will allow your shoulders to stay in proper alignment. You're going to do 5 to 10 repetitions of the hinge. It's one of the few exercises where, rather than counting your breaths, you'll be counting your repetitions. Now, the next 5 exercises of your core foundation series are going to be performed on the ground. The first exercise is called internal leg tracing. For this exercise, you'll be laying on your back. You're simply going to want to take one leg and take the heel of that leg, press it as hard as you can against the other leg, and then slowly trace it up that leg all the way up to the knee, applying as much pressure as you can. Once you've reached your knee, you can actually reach forward and, applying pressure with your opposite hand, continue to push. And then trace back down the leg. You'll do 5 to 10 repetitions for one side, and then 5 to 10 repetitions for the other side. Your next exercise is called the anchored bridge. The anchored bridge. Now, for this exercise, you're going to press your feet together. You're going to take your hands and put them into that decompressive breathing pattern. Remember, you'll be breathing those deep decompression breaths in which you expand your rib cage. You're going to come up into a bridge position by lifting your glutes off the ground, and then you're going to do 5 to 10 of your deep decompression breaths. For this next exercise, called supine decompression, you're going to be in almost an identical position to that bridge, except now, instead of lifting your butt off the ground, you're simply going to squeeze your legs together as hard as you can and come up into that deep decompression breath work. 5 to 10 breaths in this supine decompression position. For the next exercise, you'll be in the prone position, stomach facing the ground. Get into this position, squeeze the legs together as hard as you can, from the knees all the way to the heels. Bring your hands out in front of you. Press the hands with the fingers open into the ground as hard as you can, while continuing to press the legs together as hard as you can, and hold for 5 deep decompression breaths. For the final exercise, you're also going to be in the prone position. Very similar to the exercise that you just performed. Except for this one, you're going to squeeze your knees together and your thighs together. You're going to pick your thumbs up and in a very similar position as you were in for the hip hinges. You're going to have your thumbs on either shoulder. From here, squeeze the thighs and the knees together. Lift the low back just slightly while looking at the horizon. Squeeze the shoulder blades back and hold for 5 to 10 deep decompression breaths in which you're expanding the rib cage with each breath. Now, the exercises that you've just learned for the core foundation training can be a little bit difficult to pick up, but with practice, you'll perfect them. Now, these are the moves that I highly recommend to enhance your core and low back health for the rest of your life. You don't necessarily have to do these for the rest of your life, but for the purposes of this program, I guarantee you're going to get the full benefits for your core if you A, include all the exercises that I just demonstrated to you, and B, if you want to perfect the exercises, consider even picking up that True to Form book that I mentioned.